Once a boy with dreams bigger than a giant peach, now a man with pupils wider than dinner plates. Life had taken a turn, a nosedive, a swan dive straight into the abyss of addiction. Gone were the days of whimsical adventures with giant insects, replaced by the harsh realities of a life spent chasing the next high. His once bright eyes, now bloodshot and glazed over, stared blankly at the ceiling. Or maybe it was the floor. It was hard to tell in the dilapidated apartment he called home. Emptiness gnawed at him, deeper than any hunger pang, stronger than any withdrawal symptom. This wasn't the life he envisioned, yet here he was, a slave to the tiny white rocks that promised temporary oblivion, a prisoner in his own mind haunted by the ghost of a future that would never be. His descent had been gradual, almost imperceptible at first, a slow fade from vibrant colors to a dull, monochromatic existence. But now, it was a free fall. The alleyway reeked of stale urine, rotting garbage, and despair, a fitting backdrop for my current state. I huddled beneath a flickering street lamp, hands shaking as I fumbled with my lighter. The small rock in my pipe represented both my salvation and my damnation. A cruel irony, considering my past. A hacking cough escaped my lips, each rasp a painful reminder of my deteriorating health. My body, once strong and resilient from my giant peach days, now felt fragile, brittle like a dried-up husk. A sudden gust of wind ripped through the alley, carrying with it a flurry of old newspapers and discarded lottery tickets. One headline caught my eye: "Meteor shower tonight, once-in-a-lifetime event," I scoffed, as if shooting stars could offer any hope in my hopeless existence. But as I looked up at the night sky, a different kind of celestial spectacle unfolded. Not a meteor shower, something far stranger, something bigger. A colossal jagged object blazed through the atmosphere, trailing smoke and fire. It wasn't a meteor, it was a rock, a giant glowing Crackrock. The impact shook the city. Buildings crumbled, sirens wailed, but me? I just stared. A manic grin spread across my face, splitting my cracked lips. This was it. My chance for redemption, or at least an endless high. I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the searing pain in my lungs and the tremor in my limbs. I had to reach it, I had to. This wasn't just any rock, it was destiny. I stumbled out of the alley and into the chaos of the streets. People were running, screaming, praying, but I had a singular focus. The giant Crackrock beckoned. I weaved through the panicking crowds, my ragged clothes snagging on debris. The air grew thick with the acrid smell of smoke and something else, something sweet. My pace quickened, my heart pounded. This was my chance, my ticket to oblivion. As I got closer, the true scale of the rock became horrifyingly apparent. It dwarfed skyscrapers, casting the city in an unnatural green glow. It was pockmarked and cratered, like a giant celestial crack pipe. And it was then, amidst the chaos and the fear, that I knew I was going to smoke that rock. The heat hit me first, a wave of scorching air that smelled like burnt sugar and something else, something chemical. I shielded my eyes, squinting through the haze as I approached the base of the giant Crackrock. It towered above me, a monument to my own self-destruction. I reached out, my fingers sinking into its surprisingly soft, porous surface. It pulsed with a faint green luminescence. A low hum vibrated through the air, growing louder, more insistent. I pressed my ear against the rock, the hum morphing into a distorted, rhythmic beat. This wasn't just a rock, it was alive. I had to get higher, closer to the source of that intoxicating rhythm. I spotted a fissure in the rock face, a jagged crack that spiraled upwards like a grotesque staircase. This was it, my invitation. I began to climb, my movements driven by a desperate, drug-fueled determination. The air grew thinner, the heat more intense, but I didn't care. I was going up. The top of the Crackrock was a surreal landscape, a bizarre, distorted reflection of the world I had left behind. Twisted, gnarled trees sprouted from the porous surface, their branches laden with what looked like giant, glowing buds. Pools of viscous green liquid bubbled and steamed, emitting a thick, sweet smoke that made my head spin. And then I saw them, huddled around one of the glowing pools, a group of figures I thought I'd never see again. The centipede, Miss Spider, even the old grasshopper. But they weren't the whimsical creatures I remembered from my childhood. Years of hard living, harder drugs, and harder falls had taken their toll. Their once vibrant colors were faded, their movements sluggish, their eyes empty. They were shadows of their former selves, trapped in a perpetual haze, just like me. James? The centipede rasped, his voice a dry, rattling whisper. Is that really you? I approached cautiously, my heart sinking with each step. It's me, I mumbled, my voice catching in my throat. What happened to you all, Miss Spider? Her once delicate features, now gaunt and drawn, let out a harsh, humorless laugh. What happened? What do you think happened, James? The peach pit stopped working. The old grasshopper, his once vibrant green exoskeleton now dull and cracked, strummed a discordant tune on his violin. We tried to stay clean, he croaked, his voice thick with regret. We really did. He launched into a mournful song, his voice cracking with emotion. The world is a peach, or so they say, but life took a bite and threw it away. We chased the dragon with pipes in our hands and landed right here in this God-forsaken land. I listened, a cold knot forming in my stomach. Was this my future? To be trapped here on this giant Crackrock, surrounded by the ghosts of my past, forever chasing a high I could never truly reach. The giant Crackrock wasn't just a haven for washed-up adventurers and their pipe dreams. It was a microcosm of the world below, a warped, distorted reflection of society's underbelly. And within its grimy depths, a different kind of hero was about to emerge. The air crackled with a strange energy. A low hum vibrated through the porous surface of the rock, punctuated by the rhythmic thump of distant bass. This wasn't the sound of nature. It was the pulse of something artificial, something illicit. James and his newfound companions, their faces illuminated by the eerie green glow, exchanged uneasy glances. They had seen their fair share of strange things, but this was different. A figure emerged from the swirling smoke, her silhouette framed against the glowing backdrop of the city below. She moved with a grace that belied the chaos surrounding her. A dark angel descending into the heart of darkness.
The air crackled with a strange energy. A low hum vibrated through the porous surface of the rock, punctuated by the rhythmic thump of distant bass. This wasn't the sound of nature. It was the pulse of something artificial, something illicit. From junkie to junkie savior, Narcana, even her name was whispered in hushed tones, a mixture of fear and reverence. She was a paradox, a contradiction, a superhero who walked a tightrope between salvation and damnation. By day, she was just another face in the crowd, a ghost drifting through the dilapidated hallways of the Vista Del Mar Hotel, her pockets filled with tiny baggies of fentanyl, her eyes reflecting the despair she peddled. But when the sun set and the shadows grew long, she shed her anonymity like a snakeskin. She became Narcana, the junkie savior. Her cape, fashioned from discarded Narcan packaging, billowed behind her. Her utility belt, a testament to her resourcefulness, held an arsenal of life-saving tools. Her journey from junkie to savior had been a baptism by fire, a descent into the abyss followed by a desperate climb back towards the light. She had stared death in the face and emerged, scarred but not broken, with a purpose, a mission, to save others from the fate that almost claimed her. Her powers, like her past, were unconventional. Born from necessity, fueled by desperation, she hadn't been bitten by a radioactive spider or exposed to gamma radiation. Her abilities were the result of a different kind of alchemy, a dangerous cocktail of street smarts, desperation, and a deep understanding of the very drugs she peddled. She had discovered, quite by accident, that the Narcan she carried to revive overdosing clients had properties beyond its intended use. It enhanced her reflexes, sharpened her senses. It was a temporary fix, a dangerous high, but it gave her an edge. And then there was her signature weapon, the crack pipe grappling hook, a testament to her ingenuity, a symbol of her duality. It was a tool of addiction repurposed for good, a way to navigate the urban jungle, to reach those in need, to deliver salvation with a flick of the wrist. Her story was a fentanyl fairy tale, a cautionary yet hopeful narrative woven into the fabric of the city's underbelly, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, even in the face of overwhelming darkness.
Heart of darkness, heart of the city. Vista Del Mar Hotel, a crumbling monument to broken dreams and bad decisions, once a beacon of luxury, now a festering sore on the city's skyline. Its neon sign, flickering erratically, cast an eerie green glow over the street below. The giant Crackrock, now wedged precariously atop the building, had transformed the once grand hotel into a grotesque parody of its former glory. The lobby, once opulent and inviting, was now a dimly lit den of shadows and whispers. Dust motes danced in the stale air, illuminated by the faint glow of a flickering television set tuned to a channel showing static. The air hung heavy with the cloying scent of stale cigarettes, cheap booze and something else, something chemical. The elevators, their once polished brass doors now scratched and dented, groaned and shuddered as they ferried their dubious cargo up and down the building's seemingly endless floors. Each stop revealed a new circle of hell, a different flavour of despair. On one floor, a group of junkies huddled in a darkened room, their faces illuminated by the flickering glow of a makeshift crack pipe. On another, a prostitute, her face a mask of weary indifference, negotiated a price with a John who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. And everywhere, the ghosts of the hotel's former guests lingered, whispering through the vents, moaning in the pipes, trapped in a purgatory of their own making.
James, his senses reeling from the overwhelming sensory overload, stumbled through the hotel's labyrinthine corridors. He had escaped the monotony of his own addiction only to find himself trapped in a nightmare far more surreal and terrifying. The giant Crackrock, he realized, wasn't just a source of endless highs, it was a magnet, drawing in the lost and the broken, amplifying their desires, feeding off their despair. The Vista Del Mar Hotel was a living, breathing entity, a malevolent presence that fed off the misery of its inhabitants. It was a place where dreams went to die, and where new, more twisted dreams were born from the ashes of despair.
A hush fell over the Vista Del Mar's usual cacophony. The air, thick with the sweet stench of decay and desperation, crackled with a new kind of energy. It wasn't the familiar hum of impending overdose or the desperate scramble for the next fix. This was different. This was theatrical. A spotlight, as if by magic, pierced through the grimy window of a seventh-floor room, illuminating a single figure amidst the swirling cigarette smoke. Fentman. Even his name, whispered in hushed, fearful tones, sent shivers down the spines of the hotel's denizens. He was a grotesque caricature of a man, tall and skeletal, with a handlebar mustache that seemed to twitch with a life of its own. His eyes, two black pits in his skull, glinted with a manic energy that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Fentman wasn't alone in his twisted crusade. Every villain, even a self-proclaimed artiste of despair like myself, needed an entourage. And mine, like everything else about me, is far from ordinary.
At his side, a mangy hyena, its fur matted with what looks suspiciously like cotton candy, paced back and forth, its yellowed teeth bared in a perpetual snarl. Chuckles, Fentman called him. The irony was lost on no one.
Perched on my other shoulder, a one-armed, chain-smoking monkey named Trigger puffed nervously on a miniature cigarette, its eyes darting around the room with an air of manic energy. The source of the cotton candy on the hyena's fur, James suspected. My fellow fiends, my comrades in chaos, tonight we celebrate, tonight we indulge, tonight we break free from the shackles of sobriety. Nakana, that self-righteous purveyor of purity, that peddler of Nakan, thinks she can save you from yourselves. She thinks she can deny you the sweet embrace of oblivion. Well, I say, let them overdose. Let them choke on their own aspirations. Let the good times roll.
And with that, Fentman launched into a twisted, off-key rendition of Good Times, the hyena howling along and the monkey Trigger showering the audience with a fistful of stolen casino chips. The game was afoot and it was rigged. The Vista Del Mar Hotel, a labyrinth of grimy hallways and flickering neon signs, had become a twisted game board. Narcana, cloak billowing, navigated the chaos with practiced ease. Her Narcan-enhanced senses detected the telltale signs of Fentman's handiwork everywhere.
A trail of glitter, sparkling ominously in the dim light, led down a hallway towards the hotel's once grand ballroom. Now, just another stage for Fentman's twisted sense of humor.
She carefully sidestepped a doorway booby-trapped with a tripwire of hypodermic needles. Amateur.
James, still struggling to adjust to this new level of weird, trailed behind her, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and terror. The giant Crackrock's influence was growing stronger, warping the hotel's already unstable reality into something even more surreal.
He watched in horrified fascination as a group of junkies, their faces illuminated by the sickly green glow of their crack pipes, engaged in a heated game of musical chairs. The chairs themselves, he noticed, were actually porcelain toilets.
He's using the hotel's ventilation system.
Narkana said, her voice low and urgent, as she examined a vent cover that rattled suspiciously.
He's pumping something into the air, something that reacts badly with the Crackrock's aura.
She shuddered. Even for someone accustomed to the darker side of life, this was unsettling.
What is it with this guy and glitter?
James coughed, his lungs burning. Narkana ignored him, her focus on the task at hand.
We need to find the source.
She said more to herself than to James.
He's turning the hotel into a giant bong.
They moved through the hotel, the air growing thicker, the scent of burnt sugar and something else, something chemical, intensifying with each step. It was like trying to navigate a bad trip, and only this one had teeth. They encountered the old grasshopper, his exoskeleton now shimmering with an unnatural iridescent glow, desperately trying to tune his violin amidst the growing chaos.
Can't find the beat.
He mumbled, his antennae twitching erratically.
He's playing with their minds, using the rock's power to amplify their addictions.
This was more than just a game to Fentman. This was a performance, and they were the unwilling audience.
Showtime in the Smack Den. Welcome, my fiends, to the main event. Tonight we turn despair into entertainment.
The music began. It was an unholy cacophony of sound. The centipede, his numerous legs tapping out a frantic rhythm on a stolen drum set, battled for dominance against Miss Spider, her web-spinning abilities repurposed to create a screeching violin concerto on a cobweb-covered cello. The old grasshopper, his exoskeleton now glowing a sickly green, twitched and spasmed in the corner, his violin emitting a series of discordant shrieks that mirrored the chaos unfolding around him. But the true horror lay in the audience. The hotel's residents, their faces illuminated by the eerie green glow of the giant Crackrock, swayed and twitched in their seats. They were no longer individuals, but puppets, their strings pulled by Fentman's twisted symphony.
He's feeding off their energy, their despair. It's fueling the rock.
She scanned the room, her eyes searching for a way to disrupt the macabre performance. James, however, was transfixed. The music, though discordant, resonated with a primal part of his drug-addled brain. His foot tapped, his head bobbed. He wanted to join the throng, to lose himself in the chaos.
You there, the newcomer. Come, join our little symphony of despair.
James hesitated for a moment, torn between his desire for oblivion and the last vestiges of his sanity. But Fentman, never one to miss an opportunity, snapped his fingers, and a spotlight snapped onto James, blinding him.
Dance, junkie, dance!
And James, unable to resist the pull of the music, the allure of the chaos, began to dance. A hush fell over the ballroom as Narkana, bathed in the eerie green glow of the giant Crackrock, confronted Fentman. Her cape, a tapestry of discarded Narcan wrappers, billowed behind her, a symbol of hope amidst the orchestrated despair. Fentman, his sequined bathrobe askew, his crown of crack pipes tilted at a jaunty angle, merely chuckled. S2. The show's over, Fentman. Your reign of chaos ends now.
You can't stop them all. The need, the desire. It's in their blood. Narrator. He gestured towards James, who continued to dance, oblivious to the confrontation unfolding around him. With a flick of her wrist, Narkana launched her crackpipe grappling hook. It soared through the air, trailing a stream of Narcan-laced smoke, and wrapped itself around James, yanking him away from the dance floor and towards Narkana. He landed at her feet, dazed and disoriented. The music screeched to a halt. The audience, their chemically induced euphoria fading, stirred, confused. S3. Media. Man landing at woman's feet, dazed, confused audience in ballroom, music screeching to a halt. You misunderstand, my dear Narkana. The show is just beginning.
She turned to the audience, her gaze sweeping across their faces, a mix of hope and defiance flickering in her eyes. S2. Maybe. But I can offer them a choice. A chance. Something you, in your twisted little world, could never understand. And with that, she ripped a cord from a nearby spotlight, the deafening crack echoing through the stunned silence. The disco ball above them shattered, showering the room in a kaleidoscope of fragmented light. The moment hung in the air, pregnant with possibility. Then a single hesitant hand rose from the audience, then another, and another. A ripple of applause, uncertain at first, then growing in strength, filled the ballroom. Fentman, his moment of twisted triumph, shattered, let out a roar of frustration and vanished in a puff of purple smoke and glitter, leaving behind only the faint scent of cotton candy and regret. As the sun rose, casting long shadows across the city, the giant Crackrock, its power diminished, crumbled and dissolved into dust. The Vista Del Mar Hotel, its hold on the residents broken, stood silent and empty, a monument to the ephemeral nature of addiction and the enduring power of hope. And James? He stood on the rooftop watching the sunrise, a single Narcan wrapper clutched in his hand. He took a deep breath, the air clean and crisp for the first time in what felt like a lifetime. The music had stopped, but the show, he realized, wasn't over. It was just beginning. S2, media, empty stage with spotlight, person contemplating on stage, motivational speaker on stage. This isn't a performance, this is your life, and you have the power to write your own ending.